Ladies and gentlemen.
We're ready to get started. Everybody, first of all, thank you all for coming out. Let me ask everybody a question first. So this is the second one we've done at 6:30 in the evening. You know, we've been doing them throughout the summer, starting 10 o'clock in the mornings on Mondays. You guys prefer 6:30 in the evening, or? Yeah. Yes? Okay, all right.
I do, because I work during the day, so I can't come to them. So.
That's what I thought. You know, we kind of thought, you know, I put this together with John Neparadney. Yeah, he can't be here tonight. He's got an awesome couple of books, so make sure you check out his website, jnoutdoors.com, for his books. But, you know, we thought about doing them in the mornings. And during the summer, that kind of works a little bit because we get some, you know, vacationers and things like that that come.
Works good for, at least for me. I was on the water guiding all day and just got off the water, so I was able to come. That's
kind of what John and I thought also, because guys like you and Jack, and last weekend we had Marcus Sikora, got Dirk Slider at the end of the month, so a lot of guys that maybe couldn't come and be pros, you know, and experts. So I think I'll talk to John, and we'll maybe keep doing them through the month of September at 6:30 in the evening. Before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to thank Jerry. Jerry, will you come up here just for a minute?
Oh. No, I'm fine.
Okay, here.
I don't need that.
There you go. Just go there.
There's Jerry. Jerry, say hi.
Hi.
Hey, so Jerry Diebler, a Bass and Bob member, and his buddy Pete LeBoub and his wife, and Jerry's wife, made us some pulled pork sandwiches tonight, and chips, and drinks and all that, and wow, we really appreciate that, Jerry. Thank you.
Jerry and Roxanne.
Jerry and Roxanne. Okay, well, you're just doing the eating, right?
Yes.
I had one of those pulled pork sandwiches, man. That was good. So,
Very good.
Jerry, thank. Yeah. Thank you very much. Couple of mentions is our Summer Bass Sizzler this weekend. It's a 2-day tournament. We had it originally scheduled out of Ozark Village Resort. Based on some of their accommodations and so forth, they're really busy out there this time of year, great people. But we moved the tournament to PB2. So Saturday and Sunday at PB2. 5:30 we'll have full breakfast. We'll take off at 6:30, weigh in at 2:30, and we'll have half sauce barbecue there for the weigh-in. So if you can make the tournament, come on down. We'd love to have you. And if not, come down and hang out with us during the weigh-in. That'd be great. Also, we have our Missouri Invitational Pro-Am coming up November the 12th through the 15th. We've got invites out to the pros. Most of the pros have already committed. The way we work it is amateurs that want to participate in the event, the ones that have participated in the past, get the right of first refusal through the end of August. But we've had some people, you know, say that they're just not going to be able to make it this year, and that typically happens every year. So if you want to get a hold of us and get on that waiting list to participate in the Missouri Invitational, I'm sure we'll have some openings. Just let us know. Send me a message at bob@bassandbob.com or ben@bassandbob.com, and I'm sure we'll be able to accommodate you. We have a great list of pros again this year. We'll be announcing that full list, but you know, guys like James Dill and Marcus Sikora, last year's winner Mark Tucker, Mike McClellan, James Watson, Jeremy Lawyer. I mean, just a really great list of pros.
It's more of an event than just a fishing tournament. I mean, it's a gathering of just, you name it, people here, touring pros, and everyone's sharing information. It's just a great time, and it's, you know, we eat well.
Yeah.
We have a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. We golf.
Yeah.
We fish. It's the neatest tournament I fish every year.
Yeah. I appreciate,
hands down.
Appreciate that. It's a lot
just
of fun.
organized. You know, anything Bob does is organized, and it's going to be right. And everything is. So.
Well, we'd love to have you. So if you'd like to have the opportunity to fish with Jim or with Marcus or one of these pros, it's an opportunity for you to participate with them as a team. It's not pro against pro and co-angler against co-angler. You're participating with that pro as a team, and we do have a lot of fun. Thank you, Jim.
It is a ton of fun. Like a guy bids on me every day, but whoever bids on whatever pro, they're right up front with you. You're fishing a team tournament. You're not stuck in the back, you know, watching. You're right up front. You're doing it. It's just like a team. You go through what your plan, the game plan, and it's a serious deal. I mean, what was it, $30,000?
$30,000 was the winning team
so
was 30 grand.
35 boats.
So,
it's not too bad.
It's pretty fun. It's a good deal. And finally, just so everybody knows again, our September 30th Monday seminar is going to be on electronics and graphs, and it's going to be at Ozark Yacht Club. You can find the information on our website. We have a flyer out on there. We'll be making more posts on Facebook. So it'll be from 8 in the morning until 2. There'll be a buffet breakfast there that Osage Yacht Club will put out. It'll be $15 a person if you want the buffet breakfast. And then we'll have Garmin, Lowrance, and Humminbird, and experts from each of those doing a presentation on how to read your graphs, what kind of settings to put on your graphs, how do you get, I know that I do this all the time. Is that a fish or is it a brush pile? Is that a catfish or is it a crappie? So you get a chance to kind of get dialed in on some of that with some of the pros. I know that Jim runs Garmin's, and I talked to the Garmin rep. You may not have even talked to him.
I talked to him the other day because he called me about it and said, hey, what's going on?
He asked Jim if he can actually do the Garmin side, because
so
Jim's an expert on Garmin as well.
Since I got my boat here, I was on the water all day. I thought I'm not going home. I'll just come here. But I've got Garmin, so if anyone's got any questions or want to talk about electronics, I'll be here tonight too. But what you're talking about, there's such a big demand for it. Everyone spends the money on these electronics, wants to be up to par with everyone else, but they're a little intimidating sometimes, but they're really not that hard. And if someone just sits you and said, okay, this is what you're looking at, here's the shot, the view, and this is what that is. This is a cable. This is a anchor for a cable, or these are crappie, these are bass, these are shad, this is a brush pile, this is drop off, this is a ledge, this is a rough spot. It's really simple when someone points it out, and they're not really that difficult. They can be. I'm 53, so I'm not a wizard at it, but it's a little bit of time and a little messing with it, and someone to show you what it is.
And it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. It shows you a lot, not only to catch fish or where fish are at, but it shows you everything, like with mine, how fish react. If it's just coming up to them, the boat on top of them, you hitting your trolling motor, you slam a lid in the boat, you flip a bait out, and you'll see these fish react. You see how they react to certain things, whether it be the wind picks up or the current, and you see how they position. You may not catch them, but you see them and you see what they're doing. That's what's been so neat with mine anyway. It's just seeing how they react. Some days, I'll flip a crappie jig out there and there's a wad of crappie and they all run up to it and turn away, and I don't get a bite. And I'm like, normally you'd be like, there ain't no crappie there, but there's hundreds of them under these docks. Some days you shoot in there, they run up and grab it, you catch them, you see them. I mean, it shows you how they react. Some days you flip in there, it falls down, and they all just spread out, and the jig goes right through them, and then they come right back together. It's amazing to see what's going on down underneath us. And you think there's not fish there or cover or whatever, and it's all there. It's all going on there. It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
But it's neat. So that seminar, or whatever, not really a seminar, what do you call it?
Just an educational seminar.
An educational thing. There's, everyone, no matter what graphs you have, there'll be someone there to show you. So I'd recommend, because normally those are $200-300 trips to take someone out, and everyone will be there, and everyone's the same as far as helping you understand and read your graphs. So that'll be neat.
So if you can make it, we'd love to have you September 30th. And hang on one second, Vern. Also, we'll be recording that. Now, that may be a little bit more difficult to record, but we'll be recording that for those of you watching on Bass and Bob. Also, one final mention. You'll like this, Jim. Is my buddy Ben back here, technology wizard.
Yes.
We're working on an implementation of Bass and Bob Live. So, versus Facebook Live, which kind of gets lost in the shuffle and, whatever, lots of technical issues all the time. We're implementing a software application for Bass and Bob where we're going to be able to be recording things live. Our Missouri Invitational, we'll be doing some testing over the next couple of months with the software application that we're licensing. And the Missouri
Probably better not do the monthly meeting, because you need to edit those.
No, I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll play around with some things, but we'll definitely be having the Missouri Invitational on Bass and Bob Live, bassandbob.com Live, and it'll be, showing the auction and the weigh-ins and the takeoffs and video on the water. It's not gonna be like Major League Fishing or FLW, but I think everybody will get the idea, so.
It'll be better than that.
Go ahead, Vern.
Yeah, well, while you got on that subject, I just wanted to, maybe you know this answer. We have several guides here on the lake. And we also
Be good,
have,
Coach Jack.
Ben, and what is it like a normal charge if, say, someone don't really want to go fishing, but say they wanted a
Just go out and learn the graphs.
2-hour thing in the boat to learn, or 3-hour, whatever you, what are the charges for that?
Good
Does
question.
anybody know what everybody?
Vern's question for those watching, if you can't hear, is, you know, if you wanted to hire one, you know, Jim or Big Ed or Coach or Jack or somebody to just go out and do an hour or so or 2 hours, whatever it is, a guide trip where you're just learning about your electronics. Vern wanted to know what the typical charge is.
I got you. I can't speak for anyone else. Personally, since I have the Garmin's, I usually tell someone I'm doing a trip today from this time to this time, just come meet me there and we'll go spend a half hour. I don't have a problem doing that, you know. It's kind of hard to put a price on something like that. I know some guys charge a couple $100, $300, depends on how in depth, how long.
Right, yeah.
So there's a lot of variables there. So I don't know. I know there's a couple guys around doing it for certain brands.
Right.
So look
Just
them
check
up,
with them.
check with them. But you know, obviously, you ever see me on the water anywhere around, and you have Garmin's or you're interested in them, I have no, just come over and yell at me if I'm parked at the dock or whatever. And, we'll talk about it. I'll show you. And you know, before you buy something, I like to see it. I like to use it. I know what I'm doing. So you know, I don't have a problem with none of that. So I'm sure most other guys, if it's just 10, 15 minutes, they're not.
Right.
You know, if maybe you see you have one little issue, you know, what's this, or how do I set this, or how do I get a waypoint, or how, whatever it might be, it's a quick question. Just ask somebody. They're, you know, this community's awesome. I don't care who it is. They're gonna help you if they can.
Got it.
So.
Cool. That's just Vern's question. So that was a long introduction. So tonight, we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have James Dill. I think most of you here know Jim, and most of the Bass and Bob people do, because Jim's been helping Bass and Bob for going on 7 years now, ever since we started this, which is amazing. Yeah. So if you don't know James, he's a fishing guide on Lake of the Ozarks. He's a very successful tournament fisherman. He's also the owner of Crocodile Bait Company, who continues to innovate and create new baits. Lots of great jigs, shaky heads. I caught 3 really nice keepers on the shaky head today. And so anyway, Jim, thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
And tell us a little bit about what's going on with the fish right now, what you anticipate coming up here over the next month or so. And you got lots of rods and stuff like that. So tell us what's going on, dude.
There's so much going on right now. And I've got every rod in my rod box here. And basically what I'm going to talk about tonight is just my setups and how I go about setting things up. What rods, what reels, what line, you know, everything for each setup. Because each thing you're doing out here kind of requires a different setup to get the maximum action out of a bait or the maximum feel out of a rod, whether it be the line, reels, what have you. You know, right now, we're in the middle of summer, obviously. Had a trip today from 11 to 3. I said, let's just pick the hottest part of the day, the hottest year, and that's, I guess, what we did. But anyway, we went out, and I'll be honest, I was a little worried about it. I thought this is going to be a tough one today. But that wind was blowing, and that wind was blowing 15, 18, 20 miles an hour, and we absolutely caught them today. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun for the guys. And summertime, the numbers are way down for bigger fish. I mean, this weekend the Summer Sizzler will show you some of the best guys to be fishing. I anticipate, I don't know, 18 pounds, maybe 20 pounds one day, probably not 2, and that might be 5 fish the entire day. For 8 hours of fishing, a team of guys may only catch 5 if they're lucky. Okay, and that's just kind of what to expect. Now, if you want to cut your numbers, which we went after today, which is a lot more funner when it's 100 degrees and fishing's tough and you get a little boat traffic. I thought it was my phone, the same ring. There's several things you can do. So I'll just start with that. right now. Probably my number one thing in the summertime is a fluke. You can rig it on bait casters, rig it on a spinning reel a lot of times. And I have 30-pound braid main on it, and then I run about a 10-foot leader on it, okay? I usually or always use fluorocarbon for my fluke because I want it to sink. I don't want that bait coming out of the water too much. This is thrown weightless, okay? So my leader is going to be 10-pound fluorocarbon, okay? And this bait here, I'll show you how I rig it. I'm just gonna show you how I rig everything, how I go about each rod, reel, bait, and every one on these table right now you can catch them on right now this time of year. We call it junk fishing in summer. You don't know where you're gonna catch them. You're gonna catch them in 2 foot of water. You're gonna catch them in 35 foot of water. So today, the main thing was, if you guys get out there fishing, you'll notice there's a lot of shad starting to get out on the main lake. They're 1.5 inches, 2 inches long, big balls of them. And they're late this year, at least they are for me. I haven't seen them except for maybe the last 3 weeks. They're starting to show up out there. And that's when it's key. Those shad run the main lake, they run the channel, and they get underneath these big docks. These big main lake cruiser docks. If you have an isolated dock, a long stretch over deep water, you get one dock there, just go hit that dock. And they're usually 80% of the time on the up current side, okay, because that current, especially this year with all this current ripping through there, they got their noses pointing into the current, they're on that up current side. And this little bait here catches more fish, and we probably caught, without exaggerating, probably 8 to 10 solid 17 inches today. Kentucky's largemouth, and they're out there, and they're out there feeding on these shad. And it's kind of why I think in the summer it gets a little tough, because a lot of these fish just get out there and roam, and they get out under these big docks, and they roam out in deep water. And them are very difficult fish to catch if they're not relating to just a point or a drop or a brush piles, a target. You know, they're just out there roaming, and it's really difficult to catch those fish. So a bait like this, it's imitating those shad that we're seeing out there. And I rigged this thing with a 5/0 hook, okay, a 5/0 Yamagatsu wide gap hook. Okay, you run it through the nose of the fluke, about 3/8 of an inch. You bring it out, and here's something I started doing. An old guy from Table Rock showed me this about 30 years ago, I bet. You see this little treble hook on there? A little stinger hook. It's a number 4 treble hook. 75–80% of your fish are all on that treble hook. So I can't stress that enough. On that fluke, these fish shoot out from under these docks and grab this bait before you can even react. Before you can set the hook, if you got this treble hook on it, you're going to catch them. And you catch most of them on that treble hook. So basically, this little treble hook, number 4, you just put it on there, let it hang, run your point back through like it would. Real important to keep your bait perfectly straight all the time. Perfectly straight. That allows it to glide, okay? It's a light bait. There's no weight on there. No weight at all. The only weight is that treble hook. Okay, when you're working this bait and you stop it, it stops, the treble hook goes to the front. It's just enough weight to get that thing to swim down. Then when you start jerking again and working it, it's on there and it's rattling back and forth, and then it goes to the back to where when the fish come out and grab it. So, and basically all you're trying to do is throw past your corner. I always, on main lake side, throw past your corner, say 6–8 foot, and get that thing, let it sink down a foot, and start working it. Work it like you would a spook or a stick bait. Okay, so it's a fast, steady retrieve. Every once in a while, maybe stop it, let it sink back down, but just work it steady. Don't stop it, don't slow it down. Just keep working it. And when you get to that corner, they come blasting out of there. And they'll come out 2, 3, 5 at a time sometimes, and they're fighting. They're fighting to get that fluke. They just think it's a shad, you know. So that's probably the number 1 guide bait for me, anyways. I don't know, Ed, you use these? I'm sure he does.
Time to time, but I use more topwater bait.
Yeah, well that's next.
Yeah.
You know, so Like today, it was real windy, it was pretty choppy, so it kind of took our top water out. And what he's talking about is like chug bug spooks. It's a little calmer, cloudy, that seems to work really good for me. But when it's real windy, you just throw this out there, let it sink down a foot, and just work that thing. Work it by that corner. It's just a blast. It's a lot of fun. And like today, you'll get them 17 inches show up. You catch them 2.5, 3 pound Kentuckys, it's a blast. It's just nothing else any funner. So, medium action rod, okay, you want it to give, so when you're working it, you don't want, when you pop that rod, you want that rod tip given, okay? That way it's allowing to the action. If it's too stiff of a rod, it just pulls that bait straight and doesn't give the action. So get these and play with it a little bit. Throw it out there and just kind of work it, and you'll see this thing just shoots dart. It's back and forth. It's a reaction. These fish don't have to be feeding, and this comes by them, and they'll grab it.
How long's your leader?
My leader, normally I'll start out with about 12 foot. I like my knot to be inside my reel when I get that fish up where it's really pulling on it. Because now that knot's up in the reel, and it's not going to break out here in the middle. You know, because that's where all that stress is, and that's your weak point in this is that leader. And then also if you start out with 12, 15 foot, you break it off, get it frayed, you can cut it and retie several times without having to put a new leader on. So that's, you know.
What size line is that on your leader?
On the leader, that's 10 pound fluorocarbon. If you use monofilament, it'll tend to float a lot, and it doesn't want to sink. You know, so, and that 10 pound really allows this thing just to all kind of action. If you use too heavy, that line drag in the water will just hamper your action. So it's real important to have that lighter line, and it really allows that bait to work and do good. So that the other one I was going to tell you about is a chug bug. And believe it or not, I don't have one tied on there, but it's just a chug bug. They've been around forever. Storm makes them. You know, there's a dozen companies make a similar style bait, but this here is just a chug bug. Storm makes it. You can buy them anywhere. Every tackle store in the country has these. Color, not real important. This one's just a baby bass color. This seems to work really good. I use a bone color one and this. But it's the same principle, but if the water's a little calmer, you can throw it out, throw past the corner, and pop it. Steady popping. And if a fish comes up and misses it, don't stop it. Keep moving. All right? And the thing about a chug bug is when these groups come out and they're chasing these fish, you'll catch one on that front hook, and he's down here, and there's 4 or 5 others running into it, and you'll catch another one. So if you're on a guide trip and you get 2 fish on that same hook, it's a good trip.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great trip, and it's fun. And you'll catch 2, 15-inch Kentuckys at the same time.
And they're always going the opposite way.
Right, and it's a blast. I mean, it's just fun. So, in the summertime when things get tough and you don't want to just sit out there and drag a big worm, just get out there and play, and you'll catch keepers. I mean, we didn't have a big bag today. They probably had 12 pounds, 13 pounds maybe, but middle of summer, you get 2, 3, 4 pounders, you're fishing tournament, you want to go finish out your limit, you go do that, and you get your limit. So that's 2 of my favorite things, most productive things. There's another thing I've come up with here. I've been doing kind of same principle when these fish. I'm just going to tell you, just because I have it on there, my live scope, that thing looks out, and I can see under the docks, these bridge columns, these main lake docks, you see the cables, and you can see how deep your fish are. And if they're set up at 3 foot, 2 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, you're going to catch them on the flukes and them chug bugs. They'll come up. Now, if they're down there at 12, 15, 18, 20 foot, it's a big deal here lately is a shaky or a drop shot. Okay, but there's a little something different I've been doing on mine.
Double.
Just because we can double up and it's a lot of fun, is instead of putting the traditional drop shot weight, I'm using an 1/8 ounce shaky head. Alright, so you flip that out there, you can work it on the bottom. Okay, that's on the bottom like normal, and you're shaking around, and look at that other worm, that's up off of the bottom. If you got a brush pile that's pretty low brush pile, you can work that, the main one through the brush pile. You got your other one up here on top of it, and it's really deadly for just catching fish. And you'll catch 5-6 pounders on that little bitty worm. But if not on the bottom, just these same big docks, ledges, these fish will suspend just above the ledges. You know, you might have 15, 18 foot and it dumps off in the main channel. Throw this little rig up there, throw it out there, let it sink down to 18 foot and just kind of pop it up and let it sink. Pop it up and let it sink. And you got 2 baits on there. And if you catch 1 fish, most of the time, you're going to catch 2. Because that whole school is going to come up. Once you get 1 active and he's feeding, their other ones are coming up there, and they don't. All they think is that worm that the first one ate came out. You know, that worm come out, and that's an easy meal. You grab it, you catch 2 fish. So it's a blast, and it catches a lot of fish. When it gets tough, there's 2 things you do: either downsize like this, or you go up, and you go real fast, and you look for a reaction. So one of the 2 things. Right now on points, bluff shelves, this little rig works real good. Just throw it up on these bluffs. You might have a bluff and might have, I don't know, 10, 12 foot drop, and then you got a shelf that comes out there. It might come out 6, 8, 10 foot, and then it drops again. It might only come out 2 foot and it drops again. But you throw this little rig up there, just work that thing out, and then real slow, and that whole time this little bait's just up there. Okay, and you come off that little drop, and that's where you'll get a bite. So it's very productive little bait. The drop shot's productive everywhere. Any of you watched the Cup over the weekend? Drop shot. A lot of drop shot. A lot of pressure on that lake. Small lake. A lot of them guys were rotating around brush piles, so they downsized. You know, a lot of them downsized. Either they went big, deep, or they downsized and went to deal. So this lake's no different. This is a big, big Lake Hamilton. Okay, this is got tons of docks, got cover, got ledges, got it all. So, you know, that's another bait to try in the summertime.
Hey Jim, you doing the same braid and?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same deal. This is 30-pound braid. I run 30-pound Power Pro braid. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference on your braid. You know, I just buy Power Pro. Hey, good luck with it. One thing I will point out is I use Real Magic a lot. Y'all familiar with Real Magic? It's a line conditioner, and I spray these down a couple times a day. I spray this line and it just absorbs it and it keeps it real limp and limber. And it keeps it from drying out. It keeps it from getting all those little twists on you. That's another thing. If you spool up spinning reels with monofilament or fluorocarbon, really doesn't work good on it. It'll tend to, throughout the day, it'll twist. And eventually you're going to get that wad, bird nest come out here, and it's a mess. And the braid virtually eliminates all that issues, okay? Another thing is it's extremely sensitive, no stretch. So you're going to feel every little slightest rock, fish, whatever, you're going to know what's going on with the braid. And then from that braid on this here, I have either 8 or 10 pound leader, okay? Because I'm going finesse now. I'm going real slow, real finesse bait for a tough bite. And the lighter the line, the freer these baits are going to move, and the less they're going to pick up on it. You know, fish probably see line, I'm sure they do, but I'm a big believer that fish feel the line with their horizontal line. When you get a high pressure system, it's tough fishing. Those fish know everything that's going on in the water. And if you pull a line and that vibration in the water, they're going to pick it up. They're going to know it's there. So that's my thought anyway. May not be nothing to it, but that's how I feel about line and vibration.
Yeah, what knot do you use to tie the two?
I basically use a simple slip knot. I use 2 slip knots, you know, and it might be called a string knot. That's what I always called it. And it's basically, you know, you go through your eye, wrap it 3-4 times, go back through your line and pull it. I can tie it. I can show you guys if you want. Tie 2 of them, wet your line, always wet it, and slide it together and then trim it off. It's real important to wet line, especially monofilament and braid. It'll help it, it'll slide. If not, just that little bit, especially with fluorocarbon, it heats that line up and it'll weaken it. So that moisture, it'll let it slide up, it'll cinch up real tight, nice fight, and you can trim it off. So you can trim that knot real nice and clean. That way it goes through the eyes, you know, and you ain't got that coming through your eyes when you're trying to cast. So, on the spinning reel setup, on any of that, any questions on anything at all?
What kind of worms are you using there? Jim?
These are just little zoom, little 4-inch finesse. Just really low. You can put the mag finesse on there. I got another little minnow I put on there. It's a Kitech little minnow. What's the name of them? They're a little Kitech swim bait.
The Easy Shiner?
I think that's it. I got some in the boat. I'll show you guys. But they come in 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch. That 3-inch and 4-inch works really good, especially around them wave breaks and big docks. You throw it out there and you're twitching it and they're feeding on them shad. And then one will grab that worm and the other one grabs that shad. Or you can throw it out there, let it sink down, 15, 18 foot, and you just reel it. You just steady reel it. You got the worm coming back here, and then you got that swim bait up here swimming like a little shad. Extremely productive, and it's just a lot of fun. So that's the extent of my spinning reels. But they are a lot of fun. Now, the next thing, like in the summertime, it can get really productive, and we'll go real shallow now, is a little square bill. Even though there's a lot of fish deep, a lot of fish roaming, there's a lot of fish shallow right now. They stay shallow. Okay, they come in, they're there in the wintertime, they're there in the spring, they're there in the fall, they're there in the summer. The water might be, I don't know, 86, 88 degrees back there, and they're back there. And they're back there, some people may say 10 foot shallow, they're back there in a foot of water. They're back there in 2 foot of water, 3 foot. They dropped the lake last couple days. I seen it come down quite a bit, maybe, what do you think, a foot?
Yeah.
I mean, quite a bit, So them fish, if they're way in the back, they'll back out for a couple days probably, but if the shad are back there, the bass are back there, because they're gonna follow the bait. So, is this just a little KVD, little square bill, 1.5. I like that color. There's a couple others, there's a little shad color. Water still has a little stain to it. I think it's more about the reaction. But you just go back, we'll go over setup too, first thing, since that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, is on the little square bill, it's different than, like, say, a large crankbait. This is just a little 6'6" rod, okay? Because normally you're back in there around laydowns, you're around shallow docks, there's overhanging trees. So a smaller rod, this is a medium action, little 6'6" rod, okay? It's spooled up with 10-pound fluorocarbon, 10 or 12, all right? And you're making sharp casts with this. You're not throwing long distance with this. You're on the front side of these docks. I call the front side the deep side. You're throwing up the shallow corners, and you're just, as soon as it hits, you start cranking it. Crank it pretty hard. You want this to go, when it hits and you start cranking, start digging that mud right there. What's that? Ben. Ben's got the wasp.
They get on horses.
Yeah.
He's still there.
You gotta take a shower, Ben. But this, when them fish get back there and they start chasing shad, this is extremely productive. When they're in a chasing mood, you can cover a lot of water, catch a lot of fish. And you don't have to get it under the docks. You just throw to the front corner and start cranking it. And run that thing right along, and basically what this does is it gets just underneath the foam. And any fish that's under that foam chasing, in a chasing mood, aggressive, they'll come shooting out of there. And you can catch some big fish back there. There's some back there now. They're not quite there yet. They're getting there. There's a lot of smaller fish back there running around, a lot of keepers, 3-pounders, but they'll come out and hit it. This, on a reel, on something like this, you don't want a real fast one. This is 7-to-1, just kind of your run-of-the-mill basic reel. 7-to-1's a real popular gear ratio. You know, because you don't want to be really cranking it. You don't want to have to go too slow if you got too fast. You just want to throw it out there and you just want a comfortable reel with the thing. Okay, you want this thing to have all its action. You want it to hit the bottom. If you can get it to, if you can tweak your, I don't know if everyone knows how to tune a crankbait. They've got an eye on the front and then they've got a snap ring. Okay? On the eye that comes out of your nose of your crankbait, whether it be a deep diver, square bill, whatever, you just take a pair of pliers and you tweak that to the direction you want it to run. It don't take a lot, just a little slight little bit. And basically what we're trying to do is throw it in the front corner of that dock and crank it, and it'll go underneath that dock, or to go and hit that foam. Or say you get up the river and we got a lot of these poles that anchor these docks. It'll run along there and hit some poles. It deflects off something. And that's usually when you get bites on a square bill. You got some laydowns. You throw over the top of the laydowns, brush piles, cables, it doesn't matter. These little square bills just, they root around and they come over it. And you want to deflect off something. You want to hit something. You see a laydown or a shallow brush pile, throw over it and bring it right through the center of it. Usually bring it on the outsides first. I'll start on the outside, see if I can't get one to come out. If not, just throw right over the top of it. Lay downs, bring it down the center of it, bring it over it, up front towards the roots, down through the middle, out where it breaks off into deep water. But a square bill in the summertime is deadly. And lakes all across the country. Truman's really good, you know, but the Ozarks, it's very good. I don't know how many of you guys fish upriver, or even up any of the river arms. Way up the Glaze, there's thousands of laydowns. Way up the Gravois, laydowns. Nanglas, Osage, it doesn't matter. There's laydowns, there's shallow stumps, there's brush, just trash in the water. Just go up there and throw these little square bills and cover some water and you catch a lot of fish. And there'll be a time, and it's usually now, when they get on this really good, really shallow. So when you get a lot of boat traffic out there and you can't fish main lake points, you go way up these river arms where them big boats can't get. Okay, you bring your trolling motor up, and believe me, you're stirring mud. Don't let that stop you. Me and Denise were out over the weekend, and the best fish we caught all day was in about a foot of water in some of that coon-tailed grass. And it was the best fish all day long was in that shallow water. Surprised me, but
You running straight fluorocarbon?
yeah, straight fluorocarbon on that.
8, 10, 12?
This is 10. 10 or 12,
Yeah.
normally, you know, it's not real critical that shallow, you know, because you're that shallow. You know, if you're trying to get something to go deeper, you want to go lighter line, you know, 10 or 12. 12 is usually kind of the standard. You know, I tend to throw a little bit lighter line. You know, you're not really getting it hung up on anything ever. And if you do, you're so shallow you go and get it off anyway. So, you know, on a rod and reel setup like this, your drag's going to be set pretty good, pretty light. You know, that's one thing on each bait too is your drag, how critical the drag is. Crankbaits, square bills, DD22s, it doesn't matter. Your drag is real critical. You know, you want to set that drag so when you set the hook on it, that line comes out. Okay, so when you get that fish coming and he starts pulling on you, it's got plenty of tension, but that line will give, so don't pull these treble hooks out. These treble hooks are little, and crankbaits are one of the hardest baits to keep a fish hooked. But if you play with your drag and you get your drag set right, when they make their run, when they get to the boat, it's going to pull a little bit of drag, and it's going to allow them hooks to stay penetrated but not pull through. So, real important on crankbait.
What fluorocarbon do you like?
I like Berkeley 100% fluorocarbon. That's all I use. You can buy it anywhere. It's extremely strong. I have an absolute zero line problem. So there's, you know, all kind of lines out there right now. Expensive ones, not so expensive. I'm a big believer. If I don't have no trouble, I'm not switching. You know, so I don't break off. I just don't. But when you're jig fishing, anything, always check your line, especially on shallow, you know, if you're working cables, you're running cables, or you're running rocks, whatever, just check your line. Because that little bit of abrasion, fray, that 6-pounder will tear you up every time. So,
Do you ever have any success with that square bill or any crankbait for that matter at night?
I don't throw it at night, so I wouldn't know. I actually don't fish at night, so I can't help you there. You know, Coach would be the one for that. But you ever throw a crankbait at night?
No.
Okay, there we go. Not to say you can't.
Yeah, I know some guys who do it at night.
Yeah, and I've heard guys.
I've never used a square bill at night.
Right. I've heard guys do that. You
I
know.
think if the moon's shining, it's not a bad
Right.
one, right?
Maybe, but I don't get out on water at night unless I'm in a fireboat going out to pick somebody up because they've done something stupid. So, you know, that's what happens at night down here. But since we're talking about crankbaits, we'll go the opposite direction now. Okay. Now this is a deeper crankbait. This will run 15, 18 foot. Okay. Bigger bill on it. Now this is the opposite of your of say a square bill, where you're back in there throwing around shallow brush or shallow laydowns or shallow docks, overhanging. This is usually thrown way out in the open water, out off of deep points, out off of ledges, over brush piles that might be in 15, 18, 20 foot, and you want to bring these fish up. Say you got a cloudy day, you got wind like today, then fish will come up out of that brush and they'll suspend over the top of it, and that's where this crankbait cover a lot of water. Opposite deal here. On a deep crankbait, you want a long rod, okay, longer rod, because you're making long casts with this. You want to get out as far as you can and crank that thing so this thing gets down to its max depth. All right, that's what you're trying to do with this. Either that or you're trying to get it out to get down to hit the bottom. And you know, you can run this. This is 12-pound monofilament on this one. Like I said, you want it to get down. And this thing will run, if you make a long enough cast, you can get this thing down 18 foot. And you know, a lot of our ledges on this lake are, say, 15, 18 foot. Yeah, I got mono on this. Yeah, 12 mono. They'll go 15, 18 foot, and then they drop off in the main river channel. And if you can throw this thing up there on that flat and crank it down and start rooting that bottom, as soon as it comes off of that break in that river channel, that's when they get it. That's when they crush it. Or if you got a brush pile, say you go in the back of coves, and in the center of the coves, there's a brush pile in 15 foot, you just throw down the gut of it, crank these crankbaits down, and let it hit that brush. You know, they're running like this. You want to really be paying attention. When it hits brush, you stop it. And let that thing lift up just a little bit and start again. A lot of times when it hits, that's when they come out there and hit it. You know, so the crankbait's good for open water, but they're most effective when they're hitting something. The bill of this one's all tore up, and it's usually from hitting rocks, hitting brush, hitting cables, whatever. If you can run a crankbait and it's deflecting off of something, that's when it's going to be most productive. The reel on this is a little better, higher quality reel. Has better ball bearings, a lot more ball bearings, because I want to make a long cast. So this one will sail out there. Okay, gear ratio. This one's 7-to-1. Again, same gear ratio. A lot of guys will throw 6 even. Some will even go even slower than that. I still like just a steady retrieve, you know, kind of run of mill. Ed, you was catching a ton of fish on crankbaits this spring.
Wonderful time.
What was your deal there?
Ha! I just lucked out. I had a weird color paint job.
Oh, come on.
No, I was fishing them 15 foot. Basically, I was parallel on the bank, and I was running that 15 foot deep or deeper, and the fish were set up in about the 20, 25 foot brand, and just making super long casts.
So did it tend where you was rooting through the rocks as soon as it comes off?
Yeah, when then all of a sudden they just nail it, and they was hitting it really good. I had a string of them that was just unreal, but it was a wacky paint job.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
But my whole deal was he was throwing it kind of the same way. He was digging in the dirt,
yeah, you got to be digging. If you're not digging, you're not catching.
Yeah, Ben here, Ben's real good with them. Would you agree? You pretty much got to hit something. You got to be hitting something. Brush pile, Terry Blankenship throws crankbait a lot. You gotta hit rust, you gotta hit something. You want to deflect it. As soon as it deflects, it gets their attention and they'll come rushing out of there and grab it. So this is a 7'3" rod, okay? Medium heavy. The crankbait rod has a lighter tip, but still has a good backbone, okay? That's the difference in a crankbait. It'll bend, okay? And that lets you, when you come back and you rear back and throw it, it catapults it out there. Okay, that's one purpose of it. It gets it way out there. The other is when you got a big fish hooked up on one of these and you're cranking them in and he pulls, that rod tip goes. It gives with them. Plenty tension on your baits, and it doesn't tear it out. If you threw a crankbait, like say on a flipping stick, as soon as you set the hook or you try to pull it, you're going to pull the hooks.
Absolutely.
So that's the whole purpose of a crankbait rod, is long rod so you can get distance, and then it's got the extra tip so when they're pulling, it's giving. You want it to give, okay, and quite a bit. When they pull on it, you want that rod given so them treble hooks stay penetrated in those baits. So, you know, run-of-the-mill reel, higher quality. This one's got 12 ball bearings. It's a high quality reel, 12-pound test line, 7'3" rod on a deep crankbait.
What rod is that, Jim?
This is a Falcon. It's actually called a Falcon Deep Runner. So, you know, Falcon makes excellent rods. They make a rod for every application. So does St. Croix, same as Loomis, same as Lew's. They all make them. They're all good. Just whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you like, that's a rod to stay with, you know. Lew's has really come a long ways with everything. You know, you want to set up this rod reel. You know, Lew's right down there in Springfield. If you guys haven't been down there, that place is awesome for setting people up, helping, having the right people. It's a lot like Wayne's shop. They have the right people working that will help you.
And not know what they're doing.
And not just selling you something. They're there to help you and tell you what to use and why you're going to use it. You know, that's really important when you're going to buy fishing equipment. You know, okay, so we talked about crankbaits, whether it be shallow, deep, the setup. Now, something this time of year that's extremely productive, actually all year, this little shaky head worm. This thing here probably catches as many fish as anything throughout the year. Good trip bait, guide trips, good tournament bait, all year long. Okay, this just a shaky head. You're probably all familiar with it. This is a propagator shaky head, little 1/4 ounce, real not finesse, but still finesse. Okay, 12-pound line, 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. This is a medium action. This is actually a finesse jig rod. Okay, finesse jig rod, shaky head, same deal. Okay, you want a rod that's light. You gotta have a rod that's got a light tip that'll give a little bit. You can't have too stiff of a rod when you're throwing light baits. You won't feel it. You just do not get that feedback. You want that light tip to give a little bit. When you're hitting rocks, when a fish grabs it, you know, you want, when you're flipping shallow or flipping light baits, you want that little light tip. So when you go to flip, it'll load up and flip out on you. But too heavy of a rod, you won't feel the baits, or you won't feel the bites, and your bait won't work. You won't get the action you want when you're flipping it. Okay. I said 12-pound line. Sometimes I'll go to 15 if I'm flipping in shallow docks, round brush or something. I tend to keep it light on my line. But that bait there, that's just a little drill mag finesse worm, green pumpkin. If you're gonna fish one bait down here at the lake, and you want to fish it all year long, this is probably the bait I'd recommend. For this weekend, well, we're gonna fish that summer sizzler. I'll be flipping this a lot. Hopefully they buy it. If I don't get them, Denise will. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll run it. But
Mono or fluoro?
what's that?
Mono?
Fluorocarbon. Anytime I'm on the bottom, fluorocarbon. Anytime. Always fluorocarbon. Less stretch, you're going to feel the bite. And the deal with fluorocarbon or anytime you're on the bottom, not only feeling the fish's bite, but you want to feel the feedback, the positive feedback from what you're fishing. If you're fishing rock, you want to feel the rock. You want to feel if it's sand, if it's gravel, if you're getting a brush, if you're getting to the rough stuff, you got to feel exactly what's going on. If you don't know what your bait's doing or where it's at, you're not going to feel the bite. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well then, Jim, I don't understand why you're fishing, a deep crankbait on monofilament then. Because you gotta throw it so far, and mono stretches a lot more than your.
It stretches
Yeah, it
and
stretches, and how you getting a hook set?
well,
like
the deal with the deep crankbait, at least for me, is I'm always worried about throwing that bait. Okay, so I've got this long rod to give, and I've got that line to stretch too, but I still got pressure on them. I want pressure on them hooks, but I don't want to pull it out of their mouth. That's my whole deal with monofilament on crankbaits.
I would think that.
You know, some guys, I'm sure there's guys out there that use different. I don't know, what do you use, Ben?
I use Flora.
You use Flora, what do you use, Ed?
I use both, I use mono and fluoro.
Okay, so, and there's different preferences, you know, so that's just what I like, you know. What do you use, Ed, Vern?
Well, I like the fluorocarbon. One of the things I think he's trying to hit on there is that there's less resistance to fluorocarbon than there is to mono. Mono floats,
Right.
and fluorocarbon sinks. So it makes your crankbait, I think, go a little bit deeper by having the fluorocarbon over the mono.
And that's a good point. And let's say I'm throwing a crankbait that's supposed to run 15 foot, and I see on my electronics my target's at 15 foot, and I'm not getting there, then I would switch to say fluorocarbon and a little lighter, because it will go down deeper. You know,
My main concern was the hook set.
the hook set and
The
not
hook
getting it.
set. I mean,
You know, when you're running a crankbait, or at least I am, when I'm running a crankbait, I'm throwing it out there and I'm cranking it. Okay, I am cranking it. That bait is moving. When something hits it, they hit it so aggressive, and they get there ain't an issue with setting hook. You know, and then even with that, you get them halfway to the boat, you set the hook again. You know, you keep the tension on it, but at the same time, I don't want it ripping them hooks out of there. So that's my thought. But
Back to your shaky, that's a 1/4 ounce shaky, right?
yeah, this is 1/4 ounce.
Okay, do you keep it moving slow? You know, a lot of chunk block in the bottom, I tend to get hung up.
Well, that's a excellent deal, because whether I'm fishing myself or I'm trying to tell clients how to work it, there's something to the 1/4 in your bigger rocks. Little bigger rocks, it won't get hung up. It stays buoyant, it'll stay on top a little bit more. If I'm fishing more gravelly, cleaner bottom, might go with something a little heavier and then drag it. You're just dragging along. A lot of times with shaky heads, jigs, thing, you throw it out there, let it go to the bottom. Excuse me. You drag it until you feel the rough stuff, or you drag it till you feel some brush, and then you get yourself keyed in on, you know, because the electronics, you can see the brush, but you still got to find it. Even though you can see it, you still want to pinpoint it exactly. So you throw out there, let your bait go to the bottom, drag it along until you feel your structure. You know,
You
or
see
your
your
cover.
bait with Garmin?
Yeah, you can see, you throw it out there, you watch it go to the bottom. So, it's pretty impressive. It impressed me anyway, you know. You've got to be right in the exact transducer cone, but it's nothing to throw it out there and just watch your bait go all the way to the bottom and see the brush. You know, you can see it, but you're still dragging it until you feel it. You know, deal with a shaky head is feeling the bottom, feeling exactly what the bait's doing. If you're not feeling it, your shaky head,
You never know.
you're not going to catch a fish unless you see your line swimming way over here, because these fish will pick this plastic up, they'll pick it up and they'll swim slow right towards you, or they'll move a little bit, or they'll just pick it up. So if you're feeling the bottom and you feel exactly what's going on, every rock, and then something changes, it's gotten heavy, or you feel resistance, or it's moving, or you're not hitting the bottom and you should, fish picked it up. So it's a big deal with with shaky head is, normally when I'm working a shaky head, I'm just bouncing it. I'm constantly moving it. I'll shake it, and I might stop it and just let it lay there for a second. All right, and let fish come over and get a chance to look at it or come over to it. Sometimes if you're fishing docks, say in 10 foot of water, you throw it out there, it goes in, it goes by them, and the fish are suspended under them docks, they'll follow it down. They'll follow it down. Okay, if you keep moving it, they may leave it alone. But if you let it sit there, a lot of times on the initial fall, throw it out, let it go to the bottom, let it hit, and just sit there for a couple seconds. Kind of a tight line, not so tight that it's moving, but enough that if it picks up or something hits it, you're going to see it. But just let it lay there and then start moving it. As soon as you start moving it, that's what a lot of times when your bite will be, on that initial fall. You know, if you're flipping it shallow, you know, if you're flipping this, say 5 foot or less, this worm is excellent for skipping under docks because it skips. And it'll skip like a rock. It'll go underneath the smallest hole in between boat lifts and the docks. Everywhere you need to get these to get a bite, especially in the summertime when it's hot, they're just like we are. They're going to get to the most comfortable spot they can. When that sun was up, we were all underneath this. Okay, every one of us were, nobody was out there sitting out in the sun, and the bass are the same way. Now that, we all know they don't have eyelids, so you know, they don't like that bright sun. They get underneath there where it's dark. Okay, with the live scope, I look underneath there, and right now the crappie, every crappie is so far underneath these docks, if you can't shoot 30 feet, you ain't catching. And the bass are the same way. You got to get back in there where they're at if you're fishing shallow. You know, so a shaky head is just excellent. It's an excellent bait for active fish and fish that aren't so active. Just you can, if they're active, you throw it in there. If you're fishing, I don't know, we'll say 8 foot or less, you throw it in there, they hit it before it gets to the bottom. That's the bite I like. I don't like to mess around. I don't like to work in it, working. I like to flip it out there, let it go to the bottom. It hits the bottom, I let it sit there, nothing on it. I bounce it, I bring it in. I flip the next one. I flip the next one. Now it's numbers. Your percentage goes way up, way up. You know, when they're hitting it on the bottom, when these fish are in 2 foot of water, 3 foot of water, and they're positioned underneath this foam, and you flip in there, they're going to hit it as soon as it passes that foam. They see in 2 foot of water, they know everything that's going on in this distance of this pavilion here. And it's the same way in a dock. That's their dock. They live there. They know everything that's going on. That's their home. You know, if you flip something in there and it goes, and you're flipped to this corner and that fish was over here, okay, and you flip in there, he knows it. And he might shoot over here and you work it out in there, you know, too fast, but now he's over here. Flip in the same spot 3, 4, 6 times. The exact same spot. Flip in there, let it go to the bottom. Flip in there, let it go to the bottom. Flip in there, work it a little bit. You know, really work these docks over. Because these fish, they'll come a little bit, and you work it out too fast. All right, but eventually, if there's a fish on that dock, he's going to get over there, and he's going to find that bait. So, you know, even though it's shallow, there can be a limit of fish under one dock. You know, and that's just where they like to get sometimes. And when they get there, that's when I like it. That's how I like to fish. I like to fish shallow. I like to flip. I like to flip there, let it go to the bottom. Nothing, bring it, flip, 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 and just keep going all day long.
You say foam, dock foam or muck foam?
Dock foam. So when I say foam, it's not foam anymore. In caps, foam, you know, the black, you know, usually on a normal dock, they probably, I don't know, they may go down 1 foot to 2 foot, depending on how heavy the dock is. What's that?
The sponsons, the dock.
The flotation?
Yeah.
Yeah, the flotation is all I'm talking about, you know. And each one of the hose on them flotation is, you want to flip every one of them. Yeah. You know, start shallow and flip. Flip this one, flip the middle, flip the outside, flip all the way out here on this corner until you find where they're at. Because for some crazy reason, at least that's the way I found, where you catch one fish, that's where you'll catch them all that day. At least in a time frame. Like early, they might be on a shallow corner, and then sun gets up, rough, they start dropping the water, whatever, conditions change, they might pull to the middle. or they might pull out to the deeper side, which might be 6 foot at that point. But you can almost count on where you catch one, you're gonna catch, if you go to that same application, that same scenario, you'll catch them all in that same spot. So really pay attention when you're fishing shallow where you catch a fish. Because you can eliminate a lot, because flipping takes a lot of time. We know that, especially if you're trying to flip holes, flip in between boat lifts, you know, over the boat lifts, wherever you're trying to get this thing. It takes a lot of time. So the quicker you can figure out where they're holding, the quicker you can run a dock pattern. You know, whether it be, you know, in 10-foot docks, 5-foot docks, or 2-foot docks, as soon as you figure out where they're at,
Don't you just drive by them slowly and see where they're at?
you can't see
Save
them.
yourself time.
I can't see them, you know, unless you flip in or you catch one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know, well, it'd be great, you know, but, because some, you know, they'll lay with their backs up against that foam. You ain't gonna see that, you know, on my graphs, you can see the foam, but you can't see a fish if it's up against it, you know, or in between it, because
You're
it's, you know.
better off to be as quiet as you can.
Yeah, that's another deal. I was just gonna talk about, at least the live scope has really taught me a lot on fish movement and activity and how they react. And Vern's totally right there. When you're fishing shallow, it's a whole different game. When you're fishing shallow than you're fishing 20-foot brush piles. You're fishing 20-foot brush piles, it may you know, hurt a little bit, you know, the noise, but it's dissipated, you know. But when you're fishing 5-foot, 10-foot and less, believe me, them fish, they know you're there. And if you run up there with your trolling motor real on high, and then you turn around and you blow that water back underneath them docks, you might as well go to the next one. You know, if you're getting into your compartments, and you let them boxes slam down in there, it's like 6 times underwater sound travels. You know, all the studies, everything show it magnifies it so much. That's why your rattles on baits, they can be real subtle, but underwater, they're a lot. You know, you can really hear them. So, extremely quiet. Try not to hit the docks, try not to hit the pontoons, you know, try not to make a lot of noise back there. You know, the biggest thing is the trolling motor. I've seen it where you get in there and 5 foot and you can see fish in there, and you get in there with that trolling motor and you hit it again and they're gone. You see them swim out of sight. You know, so that all changes day to day, pressure system, how active they are, what's going on, how much pressure the fish have had. But just the quieter you can be, the more stealthy, the better you are. You know, when I get back in some of them shallow docks, I like to just grab them hold and just push along. Just push along, push myself off, and flip it. If I'm going to the backside, I'll just pull myself along and then flip over it. Don't even hit that trolling motor. Turn your graphs off sometimes. Just turn them off. You don't need them. You're in 3 foot of water, the graphs, you ain't gonna see nothing on the graphs. Turn them off. Because we've all heard it. You pull that trolling motor up and your graphs going, you can hear it tick, 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 tick. Them fish know that. I can turn my graphs on right now and we can probably hear it right here. It's a loud ticking noise. And they all do it. It's how they transmit their waves. You know, and them fish, believe me, if it's a calm, sunny day and there ain't a lot of activity and you go back there and they can hear it. They know you're there. So just be aware of that. It's no different than deer hunting, turkey hunting, whatever. You're in their environment. They know you're there. So
Do you use hydroid?
no.
Silly question.
Yeah, I mean, it's something else, but, so, you know, the next thing would be a jig. Okay, the shaky head has a different action. It just falls. It's just kind of a nothing action, you know. Now, let's say the fish are getting real active, and you see them busting shad out in the flats. You know, now you want to go with something with a little more action. So now I'm going to start flipping jigs, okay? And as we get a little later into the fall, and fish get a little more active, that water temp drops back down in the 70s, they start chasing, they start a little more active. Now I'm going to throw a jig, half-ounce jig, a little half-ounce zapper jig, and I'll put a trailer on it like that. That moves a lot of water. Okay, it's kicking, it's moving, it's like a shad, you know? Even though it's crawfish, you know, we say a jig, well, that's crawfish imitation. Not in the fall. It's a shad now. it's moving like a shad because the way you're working is determining what they think it is. So now you got a bait that's got a lot more movement. So when it hits the water, it's kicking, it's moving. If you're not getting bites on a shaky head, just switch up to a jig. You know, it's a whole different presentation. And this will work a lot better. Say you want to swim. These fish are really aggressive. Say you get a cloudy day, a little drizzly, them fish come out from under them docks and are on the edges. Now you can throw this jig to the front corner, let it sink down 16 inches, and just reel it along. Every once in a while, stop it. And that bait's coming along, and it changes direction. A lot of times that's when you'll get a bite. When you change direction or you hit something, hit that foam, you know, so a jig, it's swimming just below that foam, and it's going to pull them fish out. And they're going to come out and grab it. They think it's a shad. They think it's a bluegill. Kind of looks like a bluegill. You know, in the summertime, the bluegill get back there. You got bluegill beds back there. You know, them bass, they eat them bluegill. You know, they get back there. They know where they're at. Yeah. You see them bluegill, you get back in the shallow, and you see them bluegill all out here, 6, 8 foot, out in the sun. That usually tells me there's a big old bass underneath that dock. That bluegill ain't going nowhere near that dock. That's usually what it means. You know, 'cause I like seeing that, because that means there's a reason them bluegill ain't underneath there where it's comfortable. Because there's something under there looking to eat on them, you know. So a jig, this is a Cara head turner. So it's still a finesse rod, but it's got enough backbone for a jig when you set the hook. Okay, 15-pound fluorocarbon on my jig, hyper mag reel, fast reels on jigs. Jigs, anything on the bottom, just put it like that. Jigs, shaky heads, I like fast reel, 8 to 1. Really fast. When I hook them, I got the one place for them to get, and that's out of that cover, out of under that dock, out of the brush, out of over 2 poles and over 3 lifts, over 3 cables. You want them coming your way. You want to control that fish as quick as you can. So, you know, you set the hook, you start cranking, you get them coming in that cable, over the dock, whatever. So, fast reel, extremely important. You know, 15, flipping shallow docks, it's pushing it. You know, 17, even 20. You know, if they're really aggressive and they're hitting when that bait goes in and it sinks by that foam, you can go 20 pounds. It don't matter. You know, the higher, you're going to feel more comfortable, higher poundage line, you know, getting them fish out of there. Because a lot of time it's a battle. You go in there and if you don't watch, when that bait hits the water and it starts sinking, it'll sink about 6 inches and it's 4 foot to the side. They shoot across there, they hit that thing, and they get underneath that dock. And the sooner you get that head turn coming your way, the better you're going to be. You know, I love flipping a jig shallow, especially in the fall. You know, we'll say towards the end of this month, all through September, that's the deal, for me anyway, flipping shallow. You know, as far as that's it set up for a jig, there's another little deal. When you start seeing, here's something else real quick I'll talk about, just since I got a little deal I do on this. The tube. Tubes kind of went away. A lot of people don't throw tubes. I love a tube, especially a black tube. Different action, whole different action than a jig, whole different action than a shaky head. It falls irregular. You know, it's always doing something different. You pop it up to the dock, kill it, it'll swim under the dock. I rigged mine a little different. I don't know, maybe some other people do it. Okay, well, you got a bullet weight, okay? 1/4 ounce bullet weight, that's 1/4 ounce tungsten. I always put a glass bead on mine. You hear that? I put a glass bead on my Texas rig. Usually when I'm Texas rigging, I don't care if it's a worm, if it's whatever it is, I'm Texas rigging. This just happens to be a tube. I put a glass bead on, especially with tungsten. That's glass beads. That hole goes down, goes over that knot, kind of protects that knot, keeps that weight from slamming in to that knot all day long. Every time you lift it, every time you set the hook, every time you bounce over something, that knot's taking a punishment, you know. So you flip that tube in there, shake it a little bit as it's falling. If we can hear that, that fish hears it. That fish hears that, and that'll get them fish coming. Especially if you get up, say you get up the river, water's a little dirtier, a little more stained, you know, just that little bit of rattle. make a
What
big
hook
difference.
is that?
This is a 4-aught hook. These are 4-inch flip tube. This just happens to be a crock eater tube.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. 4-inch flipping tube, you can run a 4-aught hook in it. I like 4-aught, works perfect in it. I don't like to get it back into the tentacles, to the legs. I want that moving. I want it to, fall, have that real irregular action. 15-pound fluorocarbon on that line. Like I said, 1/4 ounce weight and a glass bead. That's how I set it up.
Straight
You ever
fluorocarbon,
take
right?
it?
No, I want the rattle. I want the, if I'm worried about brush or need peg, I'll throw a shake head. It's fixed. I know guys who do it, fishing deep brush piles, maybe peg it if you're having trouble coming over a brush or something. But I like to flip that tube in there. I let it go in there, let it sink about to where I think that bottom of the foam is, and I'll give it a little pop, and that gets that little rattle. Click, click, click. And that's enough to get that fish to react. And the tube's a great bait. A lot of people overlook tubes. Get in Wayne's, ask Wayne about a tube.
Yeah, no, I like them, I use them, I like to dip in the chartreuse.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, the chartreuse. I'm sure everybody has seen them, but just in case, I'm gonna grab one out of this boat real quick. Here's that real magic I was telling you guys about. Cheap, you can buy it anywhere. The stuff's fabulous for your line. Fluorocarbon line, out in the sun all day, spray it down. Keep this stuff limp. Monofilament, braid, it works on all of it. It's just excellent. Put on your reels. Squirt it down, really soak it down. If you can put your rods or reels away for a while, soak it down. If you haven't used it for a while, and it'll get a little coil, you can kind of stretch your line out a little bit, spray that in there. It'll help keep it limber. Help it keep from getting all that major coil. It keeps it from just getting wore, it just keeps it nice. He said something about dye. Everybody has seen the dip and dye. Take the lid off, it's going to spill in your boat.
I already had it done. Mess, I had to have it buffed out.
I know it. It's the worst thing they ever come up with. These little pins are the best thing they ever come up with. This little magic marker pin is chartreuse. You just take it, you rub it on whatever you want, and it's just as good as the dye. But it's not going to spill, okay? So if you haven't ever seen these, Wayne's got them up there. These things are super. You just put them in your pocket. You fish all day, you put a new bait on, you want to change it up, you mark it up, put it back in your pocket. It ain't spilling, it ain't on your seat, it ain't on your carpet, it ain't on the side of your boat. So throw that dye away. But these things are excellent. All right, so the shallow flipping or flipping finesse baits like the shaky head, the small 1/2 ounce jig, those are 7-foot rods, 7-foot, medium heavy. You want a good backbone, light tip. Okay, so 7-foot works great for me. Too short, you're not going to get that momentum when you're trying to flip way back in there. So a good 7-foot seems to be perfect. I'm 5'10". Most people kind of average a little bit taller guys, 7 foot, no problem. So that's a 7-foot high speed reel on flipping. Anytime you're flipping, high speed. Last thing you want to do is be throwing a 4-to-1 reel. Hook that fish and be cranking, and the line moves a little bit. The fish gets you way back in there. So high speed reel on that. Always fluorocarbon. The clearer the water, the lighter the line. Normally is how I look at it. Also high pressure, meaning fishing pressure. A lot of fishing pressure, I'll play with my line. There's a couple guys out there, Tucker, everybody knows Mark Tucker, one of the best in the country. He uses extremely light line, a lot. I mean, it would scare you how light, but he gets bites. Maybe it's in his mind, maybe it's what's going on. It doesn't matter. So that's a big deal. Light line. So wouldn't you agree, Vern?
Well, I tell you what, I grew up on Bull Shoals
Yeah,
in Norfolk, so I learned that lesson real quick.
yeah, it'll teach you, you know.
Why don't you talk to me a little bit, you know, you had your, tube,
Yeah,
something that I've been doing for years is you put a little rattle up in the tube.
well, that's where my glass bead took place of that rattle.
What I'm saying, and when you hook it up and then you impale your hook, it's a safety valve, the rattle can't come out.
Right,
And it really works.
Yeah.
It really works neat. I mean, unless you don't want to do your way. I mean,
Right.
it's just another way of doing things.
yep, and then what he's talking about is the inside of the tube, the tubes are hollow. So you can take a rattle and shove that rattle up inside that tube, and then you run your hook through it. And the hook kind of acts as a stop, keeps that rattle from coming out, and it rattles in there. You know, but, you know, my way, is just something I kind of started doing. It protects the knot, but it also rattles. So, works real well either way, you know. Now we'll go the opposite way. We'll go deep, okay? And middle of August, fish shallow, fish extremely deep. 35 foot, 40 foot, ain't out of the question right now, you know. 15, 18, 20 is probably a good average, but these fish, they'll get out there and they'll get deep at the Ozarks. So we're going deep. Big 3/4 ounce reaction jig, also a propagator bait. Big bait, big trailer. This is actually the Biospawn, Crawl. Got them big kickers on it, moves a lot of water. Same thing, when these fish get suspended out there, these baits with a big kicking bait on it will bring them fish from a long ways. When you're, like, say, schooling fish or fish are just suspended, you throw it out there and let it sink down through the middle of them. And if it's got something with a lot of kicking, a lot of action, it'll get a fish to react to it, like a big shad. You know, on those fish, we'll just touch on that real quick. You know, you're seeing on your electronics, you're seeing shad, and you can see where them shad are suspended. They might be 15 foot down, they might be 20 foot down. You take a big jig like this, and you throw it past them, or you throw it right in them, and you let it sink. Just let it free fall. And that whole time, watch your line. You don't want it tight, you don't want it slack, you just want that nice little gradual bow in it. You just watch that line, and when that thing falls, when it gets to them shad, it goes through them shad. If you can imagine the shad getting spooked, okay, well, they spook and start moving around, that gets the bass's attention, the bass come up, the shad are gone, that jig's falling, they grab the jig. Right out in the middle, you know, over 40 foot of water, you see them shad, play with it. Throw a jig out there, let it sink down in the bottom, you know. But for a big jig like this, normally we're fishing it on the bottom. We're fishing ledges, we're fishing odd rock piles, we're fishing brush piles. Just get out on a point, any point on this entire lake. Try to start on the river side, the river channel side, the old river, because there's ledges. Just inside the cove, you'll have 15, 18, 25 foot of water, and it comes out and it dumps off into 70 foot. That's where the fish are. They're right on that break. That's their comfort zone. If I see them on the graph anywhere the most, that's where they're at. They're on the breaks, always. They might be suspended 10 foot out from the break, or they might be right on that break. But they're somewhere relating to that break. They might get just up on top of it and feed maybe early. You know, they'll get up and roam around, maybe the shad. A lot of it's dictated by the shad. If the shad are up on the flats, that's where your bass are going to be. If the shad are out over the channel, they're going to be at the break. So that's where we're throwing a big jig. Same thing with all bottom baits. Throw that baby out there. This is a 7'3" Falcon Amistad. It's a 7'3" rod. Same deal. I'm making a long cast with the jig. Jig, 10-inch worm, whatever. You want a long rod. I've got 17-pound test fluorocarbon on this. And this is a lose reel. For a lose, you know, they're just really good reels to begin with, but this is one of their lower price reels, believe it or not. This is 140 bucks, I think, 150 bucks for but the thing absolutely will cast a mile. So you don't have to spend a fortune to get a good reel. And it'll load up, you can load it up with a lot of line. So you're gonna load these up. That's something else I wanna touch on. Your line spool, how much you spool your line up on your reels, okay? Deep water baits, your crankbaits, or not your deep water baits, the baits that you're casting. You want maximum distance. You're gonna fill them up. Fill them all the way up. This one here is full, okay? Because this jig, I'm gonna throw that as far as I can throw it. I want it way up on that flat, and then I want a lot of line to go, because when it sinks down 20 foot, the first 20 foot is straight below me. You know, if you're, or that's straight down. So you need that plus the distance you want that jig to be traveling on the bottom or working on the bottom. So real important, a long rod for a big jig or a big worm, so you can get back and rear and make them long casts. 17 line. This is a 7. I think it's a 7.3. I'm not sure on that. Kind of mid-range. A heavier or a faster retrieve wouldn't hurt, but I just like the reel because it casts so far. I'll take the distance over the gear ratio in this scenario. So, you know, these big jigs, toss them out there, let them get to the bottom. There's a couple, 3 different ways to work a jig, okay, on the bottom deep. One, you can just drag it. Just drag it along, because you get these flats, I call them flats, they're shelves up out of the channel, or say up on a point and you'll come through rock. It might be, I don't know, golf ball, the baseball, softball size, and it comes through pretty good. And then you start getting, you feel it getting hung up. That's when you start getting into these boulders, like these. That's where the fish are at. Like that big pile over there, that's what it looks like on the edge of them river channels. Okay, it's smooth, and right before that river channel break, you get these big gnarly rocks, ledgy stuff. That's where them fish hang out. So you work that jig along until you get to that. Okay, and then if you try to drag it, it's going to get hung up a lot. So at that point, I'll start kind of bouncing it. You know, I'll start with just small hops, 6, 8 inches off the bottom. See if they'll take it. If not, then I'll start a little more erratic. Rip it off the bottom. You know, 6, 8 foot. I want that jig to really shoot up and come back down. Shoot up and come back down. Because I'm trying to, if them fish, you've got that river channel break. It comes along and then it breaks off and them fish are all right there. I want that jig going through them this way, coming back down. Through them, back down each time. I want it in front of their face as much as I can get it. So that's a whole deal with that. Working it like that through the fish. A lot of times when the fish aren't active and you're just dragging that bait or hopping it slowly, they'll just ignore it. Okay? If you want to create a reaction. So that's kind of where we come up with the name of this. It's a stroking jig, reaction. You rip it up, and out of instinct, the fish will chase it. They go after it. So you work these baits slow, or you go the opposite way. You rip it off the bottom.
Is that a 3/4 or an ounce?
That's a 3/4. We have them in 3/4 and 1 ounce, both. 3/4 works pretty good down to, 25 foot. Then you start getting deeper in that, or you got a lot of wind or something. I'll go a heavier one. It also works real good on bluffs, your bluff shelves. These fish are notorious down here at the Ozarks for suspending along bluffs. That's something else the live scope has showed me how many trees are in this lake. I had no idea this lake has so many standing trees. They're everywhere. Every single bluff you see, there's a shelf down there 40 foot, and there's a tree grown up 25 foot. And they're all over this lake. Points, you get these points where you got the point comes out and drops off into the river channel. You got a ledge down there. They couldn't get to that to cut them back when they were building this lake. They couldn't get it with bulldozers, chainsaws, whatever. Them trees are everywhere in this lake. So bluffs are really good at this lake for that reason. Fish like to suspend above them, in them, at the base of them, all over. Throw these jigs right up against the bluff and just let it free fall until it hits each shelf. and you can feel it. And then the faster fall, a lot of times, will get a reaction. Okay, so, that's our setup for big jig. 17, when I get up that heavy, 17 or 20. Long rod, same principle. You want to cast, you want to get it way out there. That's the big jig. So if I'm going to go, what about a spoon? Spoon? That's coming up. I got let's see here. There it is right here. Big shaky head. I like three different baits. This is a big 5/8 ounce shaky head. Same deal, you want it to get down there, down to the bottom, so you can work it, find these brush piles, work through the brush piles, find the rough spots, the big rocks, the ledges, something different down there. If it's just all smooth, gravelly, not a very high percentage chance you're going to get a bite. Your bites come when you're going across smooth, and then you find a rock pile that's the size of this picnic table or something the size of a truck. It's an odd space on these points, drops, ledges. That's where your fish are going to be. So, same thing with this. Brush hog on this. 10-inch worm. Our Swamp Bug Senior works excellent on. I was just talking to somebody. Who was that? It was caught today.
I could say.
No?
No.
Wasn't you? I remember you. Somebody else told me they caught him on a brush hog today.
No.
Who was it? I mean, a swamp bug. Who caught the fish on a swamp bug? Was that you?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was you.
last night,
Last night, okay.
yeah.
On a big swamp bug. He was saying he switched up. But that bait, brush hog, 10-inch worms, same deal. Throw it out there. The shaky head I probably would use more where I'm just dragging it. I just throw it out there, let it hit the bottom, and I just drag it along until I feel something different. And then I get on my toes and I get ready for that bite. Because that's when you're going to get the bite most of the time. So 7'3" rod, exact same setup as the reaction jig. 7'3" rod, 17-pound fluorocarbon, high-speed reel. This is actually a higher speed reel, but this is one of the old ones that they don't sell it no more. High speed, fill the line all the way up. You see the line? All the way up. Just fill it all the way up so you can really throw the bait. So,
Where does the football jig play in all this?
football jig is exactly the same as the reaction jig or the shaky head. I tend to throw a football jig when I'm dragging more. I try to use a structure jig. If I'm going to come through bigger rocks or brush especially, it tends to come through better for me. I'll say that with traditional football jigs. The Wheezy jigs, they've got an extra hard, extra stout weed guard in it, and it comes through the brush a lot better than normal football jigs. And it's got a really unique keeper on it, and it holds plastics real nice too. So, same deal, when you're fishing deep, usually deep with a bigger football, you're dragging points, gravelly points, it tends to drag better just because of the shape. It'll wobble, it'll get your bait moving a little bit different, You like football jigs, throw a football jig instead of a shaky head, but everything's got its place. Shaky head tends to get your bait up more in their face, where a football jig may lay on the bottom, more crawfish, kind of one of them deals. You can, 4 different baits, fish the exact same way, so.
That's still medium heavy.
This is a heavy, medium leaning towards the heavy side. It's 7'3", but more heavy. You're fishing deeper. The longer rod allows you to set the hook, and with the longer rod, you're moving more line, to get the hook penetrated. When you're down 30 foot, you're going to set the hook initially, get them hooked, get them halfway to the boat, set it again, make sure it's in there. Same deal. Drag on this. I haven't talked about drag, but I'm really, really particular with my drag. On everything I'm throwing has its drag setting. I see guys, they get this drag and they just crank it all the way down. Tight, no drag at all. You gotta have some drag. When that fish, you gotta have it tight enough that when you set it, it's gonna penetrate. But when that fish lunges or pulls, it's gotta give something. You know, unless you're throwing braid, or you're throwing, I don't know, 25-pound test, something, I want my drag to give. Because the main place I want it to give is when I set the hook. Because I don't have to set the hook, you know? And if you're gonna fish a jig, a worm, brush hook, I don't care, football jig, structure jig, when you set the hook, absolutely set the hook as hard as you can set the hook. You want to move as much line as fast as you can. Because there's a couple principles here. One, you're setting it as hard as you can because you got normally bigger hooks, bigger diameter hooks. You want it to penetrate better. We got here. All we need.
We're good.
You good? Okay. So you've got a bigger hook. You want it to penetrate better, but at the same time, most of your line failures are on this hook set because that's when you're putting the most stress, the most snap, the most tension on that line is on the hook set. So when you set the hook, it's okay for a little bit of line to come out. If there's line coming out, believe me, that hook is moved down there enough to get that fish's, to set the hook in the fish. So that's my preference. When I set the hook, I want line coming out. That means I penetrated, I got good full penetration. I mean, I'm not talking set it and it goes zzz, come out, but it needs to move. And that tells me I set the hook, I got good penetration, and when you set the hook that hard with a worm, since we're fishing brush, under docks, rocks, when you set the hook, the main thing with a hard set hook is getting the hook in this fish's mouth, but it's getting his head turned coming towards you. You don't want him going that way into that brush or under that dock or around cables. You want to set the hook and you want to daze that fish so he's coming your way. You want control of the fish. You don't want him controlling you. So, especially on this lighter line, like when I'm throwing 12, 15 on my smaller jigs, my shaky heads, when I set the hook, there's some drag comes out. Because when you're flipping shallow, you set that hook, there's a lot of snap, a lot of tension on that knot and that line. So I want drag coming out. So play with your drag. Another thing I'll tell you, when you run down the lake, every time I pick up this rod, whether it's in the rod box, or you good? We're good. Okay. In the rod box, on the front deck, this lake gets rough, these reels bounce around, and it moves that drag on you. When you get to your next spot, before you make your next cast, check your drag. Constantly check your drag. When I pull my drag, I want it coming out a little bit. Sometimes what you don't want to happen is you get to your next spot, you make that long cast, you get a fish bite it, and you set the hook, and that line, the drag's so loose, you don't get a penetration. Do you have a question? No? Okay. All right, so now we got a spoon. This time of year, a spoon's very effective. We caught some on it today. Suspended fish. All right, they're suspended in big cruiser docks. Condo docks are great. Big condo docks, they sit out over deep water. Them fish get underneath all that shade. They might get down there 15, 20, 30 foot of water. Bridge piers don't have a lot of, well, we've got enough here. Kind of hard to run that as a pattern. You'd have to run the whole length. But if you're going under a bridge, you can stop and throw a spoon. This is a little bit smaller one. I know there's the big ones really productive here. 6 inches, 8 inches, 12 inch, giant spoon. This one right here catches just a ton of fish though. This will catch them. Something else this will catch is great big crappie. You throw this in a crappie school and rip it up through it, you just sit there and keep catching them. Bridge pilings, you can see them under. You throw it out there, let it flutter down, rip it up through them. White bass, largemouth, Kentuckies, you catch everything on it. But same setup. This is the same as my big jig because this is a big heavy bait. It's a 7'3" Amistad, heavy rod, 17-pound test. Same reel, because I'm going to launch it. I'm going to throw it as far as I can. I want it to go down if I'm fishing open water. Say points over these drop-offs, these ledges. You let that thing sink down just below where you're seeing shad, and you rip it up through them. You want it hitting these shad, spreading them shad out, wounding shad, whatever, so it gets the fish's attention. And
Use
this,
a swivel or a snap or anything?
yeah, this one actually, this is a Water Eagle, and it comes with the swivel on it.
Okay.
Okay, which is a good deal on your spoons because they want to twist all the time, and they'll twist your line up, you know, if you don't have swivels. So that allows you, when you're ripping it, it twists it all up, you pull it out of the water, and it'll spin and undo itself. So, you know, kind of a neat bait, just for, they've been around forever. You just throw it over these fish and let it go down and rip it up through them. And if them fish are aggressive, you can sit there and catch them. Catch a bunch of them. Same deal like today we were actually throwing it where we were throwing the chug bug and spooks or flukes out there on the main docks. We'd spook them fish, they'd get onto us for a little bit and they'd settle down. And you throw that spoon out there, let it sink down, rip it through them and catch 2 or 3 more. So, summertime, excellent. The big cruiser docks, condo docks, if you can find a slip, them big cruisers in there, and you got 16 inches between the cruiser and the side, you got the boat lift in there, and they've got the bar, flip over them bars, let that thing sink down, get down about 20 foot and rip it up. Monster fish in there.
How do you get the fish over the bar?
Force them out of there. That's where that 7 foot 3 rod, good quad, you know, good reel, heavy line, you just horse them. You got to get them before you got to get them out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Same thing with flip and dot. You got to get that fish before you got to worry about getting them out of there. They come out of there, you know, sometimes they don't, but you got to get in there and get them because that's where they're hiding. So you don't have no choice. But it is fun. You flip in there, you let that thing go down, you're sitting in 60 foot of water, that thing drops 12 foot and it just goes limp on you, he's got it. Or you go to rip it and he just crushes that bait. It's a lot of fun. You set the hook, you get them cranking, they'll come over that stuff. Don't worry about that till you get them. You know, but it's a lot of fun. It's very productive too. It's a good bait, you know. Let's see here. Okay, now, a little early now, but my top water setups, okay? This is second to shallow flipping for me, all right? Top water, I think everyone likes the top water. Okay, the rod, the reel is important. Same, you see that same reel? I like them reels. They're indestructible, they're cheap.
What is it?
This is that loose, I call it the Orange Crush. You see it's all orange?
Oh, okay.
It's the only one, I think they got green ones too, but fill it up with braid, 50-pound braid. Okay, this is a whopper popper, very productive down here. The rod, this rod it's one of my favorite rods. This is an old rod. This rod's probably 20 years old. It's a Falcon Expert. It's been around forever. I won the biggest tournament in my life using this rod, so it's kind of special to me. But this rod is about as stiff as it gets. It's a 7'2", it's stout as can be. All you need is a stout rod, okay, for whopper poppers. Braid, fill it up with braid, because when you get these fish, the braid float, okay, it's extremely strong. You ain't got to worry about it breaking. You're throwing over these cables. Okay, there's times when everything's right, you can catch them just going down the bank, throwing on points, throwing on rocks, riprap. That's great. But most of the time after people start doing it, and we start running that pattern, they know it. And they're getting way back in there. And they're catwalks over 3 cables where you can't get to them. That's where that braid comes in handy. Just throw it over them. Throw it over that. Same deal with the spoon. Just throw it in there. You got to catch them first before you got to worry about it. You'd be surprised how you can horse a fish with braid. I mean, when you hook them, there ain't no playing. You're cranking it. You're cranking it. You get them in that cable, and you bring them over that cable. You bring them over the lift. And when you're throwing top water, especially this, that's your setup. Long rod, good reel, and braid. 50-pound braid. I think probably I would say everyone throwing that is throwing pretty much that same setup. I don't know if anyone's not. But same deal with a buzzbait. A little bit different on my buzzbait, because it's a little bit lighter than a whopper. This bite's coming. I actually caught that fish we was talking about real shallow. Was that yesterday? No, it was the day before. We were out. Boat traffic it was busy out. Main Lake. We started playing around. This is actually a new bait. Propagator. It's made for these frogs. It's got keepers, 2 dual keepers, wire keepers. You push the frog on it, squeeze on it, and it stays on there. This has kind of been in the industry for the last few years, but our head knocker is so effective. A lot of guys are just peeling off the skirt and gluing these frogs on there. This is just a horny toad. Zoom makes it. So we just eliminated the collar, the skirt collar, added the 2 keepers on it. You push that frog on there, squeeze it on there, it's on there. It ain't coming off. Couple different deals. It's got a lot more action. It makes the buzzbait more buoyant, and that thing will skip. It'll skip like a rock, like a flat rock. So when you start flipping under these cables, you get these cables, 8-10 inches off the water. You can't skip that whopper popper under there. You can't do it. This right here, little rig, and I've been playing with it. The wire, we put a beefier wire in it than the original, so it'll stay tuned. When you're hitting that water, it won't bend it. So once you get it tuned, it's good to go. But when you do kind of a roll cast with it, you hit that water, and that thing will skip. It'll skip underneath them thing, and it'll skip like a jig or a shaky head. It just shoot way up underneath them cables, under them catwalks. That's where them fish are at. Believe me, come fall, even now. You start playing with it. But towards the end of September, mid-October, it'll really come on strong. This is more fall bait, but don't be afraid to throw it back in there where you're afraid to throw it, because that's where they're at. I promise, that's where they're at.
Are those available on the market now?
Not yet. This is still a prototype. This one don't even have a painted head.
I'll take it, no problem.
Yeah. They're coming though. I should have them within a couple weeks. They'll be in Wayne's. They'll be on the website. But there's been a lot of people who have a lot of input. Wheezy, I'd like to say some other names, but they're big time guys sponsored up by big name brands, but they throw the head knocker because I see the orders come in. So it's kind of neat when you see a little company like us and big name guys running these out on the tour, and I see their orders come in and they buy them from us. They love them. So I don't think Dion will care, but Dion loves them. He uses them. Dion's one of the best in the world still, one of my idols. But the setup, same deal, 7-foot rod. This is a medium heavy, but it's more on the medium side, just because it's a little bit lighter weight. I want that tip to give so I can get it out there. So, braid, 50-pound braid, same deal. Fast retrieve reel, pretty basic setup. I know I'm covering a ton of stuff, but this is summertime. We're probably going, I don't know how long it's been.
Oh, it's fine. We got 2 minutes left on the card, but keep going for everybody else.
Okay, but that's we've pretty much covered it. This time of year, it's young fishing. I'll fish deep, I'll fish shallow, I'll fish suspended fish. Today, well, we didn't start till 11. We fished from 11 to 3, and we had a blast. We caught a lot of fish, and it was all suspended fish, main lake dock oriented, wave break stuff. You can go out there and catch a lot of fish. So middle of summertime, it don't matter. You can still catch them. Them fish are eating. Their metabolism's high. They're eating. They're hard to catch because they're not relating. Unless they're relating to a shallow dock, they're just out there swimming.
Right.
They might get on these brush piles, but most of them are suspended. That's why we have such a hard time catching fish this time of year, because they're suspended. So, any questions on anything I went over in rods, reels, tackle, jigs?
What was your best bait today?
Today was a fluke. Fluke by far. caught some on chug bug if we got out of the wind a little bit, but the fluke, the wind, the waves actually help it. You know, it can be blowing 50 miles an hour, it don't matter. You throw that fluke out there, let it sink down, and it's darting all around. The fish are up because the wind, it's got the surface broke up, and they're feeding. It's pushing, that wind's pushing them big balls of sand.
Say goodbye to the Bass and Bob members.
All right, thanks for tuning in. Don't miss that next one.
Jack?
If you can make it to this, on one of these weeks, come, this is a neat deal. And thank Bob for putting it on. Everybody has a part in this. You guys brought all the food and everything.
Yeah.
Neat deal.
Thank you, Jerry.
Neat deal.